Hi there, this is Dr. Everybody. Going to talk about Project 2. Now, the important thing to do with these projects is to try and simplify the problem to get you started. And that's what I'm going to focus on today. So let's take a look at this project. This project is actually deals with the U.S. tax code. In fact, the law that was passed at the end of the year last year with the new taxes for 2018, and the selling point of that is that it's changing your taxes. And so what we're going to do is we're going to do some simple calculations of and taking into account the different tax brackets that are there, so you can investigate how much this will change the taxes. We've oversimplified this because there are no deductions here, and that can have a huge impact on what your final taxes are. It might bring your taxes down to zero, for example. But given that, it gives us this, so our task here is to see how the taxes are calculated, and they're probably calculated in a different way than you might imagine. So let's take a look at this, what the problem is, and then we'll take a look at how we can simplify the problem, get it down, basically get the problem down so it's close to what you did in Project 1, and then we can build from that and add the complexity that we now have introduced with control. So this problem boils down to having two different tax brackets. On the left-hand side, you will see a tax rate. At 10%, you're paying on $9,500, 12%, 10,000, and so on down the line. But what you got to be a little careful with is that, suppose you have an income in this range of, say, 20,000, and what that means is that you pay 10% on the first 9,500, and then you pay 12% on the remaining part, and that goes up into any of these other categories. So if you're in the 200,000, say, let's imagine you have 250,000, right? Then what you want to do is you're doing 10% on the first 9,000, 12% on the next, whatever that is. There's another $30,000 in there, 22% on the next, whatever that is, $40,000, and so on. And then here we pay 35% on roughly $50,000. Right? And so you have to now do that calculation for this project. And we can scroll down and see what gets calculated here. And so you keep doing the same thing over and over. We're doing a calculation on 8,000, and then we're doing a calculation on 15,000, and then we're doing a calculation on 40,000. So that's the looping part. Let's forget about the loop for right now, because we keep doing the same thing inside the loop. So to get started, let's work on that part of it. And what happens here? We enter an income, in this case 8,000. We print it out, we calculate a tax for 2017, a tax for 2018, and then we do a little simple arithmetic. So this is the core of the project. And we do two taxes, so let's just pick one of them. Let's just work on the 2017 tax. All right. So now what I've done is I've simplified this problem down to the point where what's new here is how do we calculate a tax out of these tables. You know how to prompt, we know how to print, you know, because what was done in project 1, we did a prompt, we did a calculation, and then we printed something out. Right? And so you've done that before. Now the calculation is going to get more complicated. And let's take a look actually at this paragraph. All right, this paragraph right here. What does it say? If you have $50,000 of taxable income, you'll pay 10% on the first $9,000, 15% on the income from $9,000 to $37,000, you know, which is, you know, another almost $30,000 there, and then you pay 25% on the rest. Okay, so how do we, you know, how do we write that out? And the idea, it looks something like this. So if I have an income, if my income is between, you know, roughly 37,000 and the 91,000, I'm working off the table here, so I'm looking at an income of, say, $50,000, so it's in this range. Okay. So if I have an income that's between that, how do I calculate it? Well, like this says here, I pay, it's 10% on the first $9,000. I'm just doing things approximately here, right? Plus, we're paying 15% on the income from 9K to 37K. Which, I'll make a note here. What we're really talking about here is 37K minus 9K, and plus we now do 25% on the remainder, which is my income minus that 37K. Okay. And this, you know, what will this be? Well, this will be my tax for 2017 will equal the 10% plus the 15% plus the 25%. Oops. And that's how I'll calculate the income there. You know, so what are some things that we have to pay attention to? Well, we notice we have an if. Notice that this is written in English. This is not really written in Python. And so this is, you know, so our rule is, in terms of collaboration, is that we want you to work with somebody else to discuss strategies in English. But as soon as you start getting this down to Python, then we want you to be working on your own. And so what do I mean about getting this down to Python? Well, somehow in here I have to create a Boolean. All right, and that's part of your task. That's right. And so how do I check whether the income is between that? If we think about it, it's not very hard, right? And then we have our tax calculation, which I've written out roughly here. And notice that there's a pattern there, so that you know, how do I handle the next bracket? Well, that actually will be, well, else if now my income is between the next category, between 91K and whatever this says here, between 91K and 191K. And so on, right? Blah blah blah. And then you just keep going on doing these calculations. And oh, by the way, we need to, you know, we'll have something before that to handle the lesser incomes. I don't know what I'm thinking of. All right, and what am I doing here? I am calculating a tax for 2017. Right. So down here at the bottom, I'll print that. So we prompt for some income, and remember we have to convert that to an int, and then we do some calculations. We calculate, and then we print. And this is to do just one of the taxes. And once we've figured out how, once you see the pattern to do the 2017 tax, then you can do the 2018 taxes is exactly the same. It's just using a different table. Then you have to put a loop around this. So you take this whole calculation that you have done here, and you put a while loop around that. And again, you need a Boolean. And I basically tell you how to do that without actually doing it. And remember that there's a pattern to doing a while loop, in that we actually start with a prompt before the loop, and then we prompt again at the bottom of the loop. All right, so you prompt, you check your Boolean, you do your calculations, and then you prompt again at the bottom of the loop. And then you just keep going through as long as that Boolean is true. And in this case, we're dealing with positive values of income. And if you input a negative value of income, the loop will stop. And we can see that where we see our prompt here, right? There's a negative value, and that's when test 1 stopped. Test 2 just checks to make sure that you can handle where only a -1 was put in. And then one thing that we do is there is a blind test. You don't get to see the input or the output, and we do that. That's, you know, we find that sometimes students try to write try to write some code that says, oh, well, if I see the value $1 million, I'll just have a couple of print statements here and do the calculations. Well, yeah, no, that won't work. And one way we can identify that is by having a blind test. And all the blind test does is it just has a couple of values that are input that are different than the ones that you have here, that are in test 1. So there you go. Hopefully this will give you some ideas on how to get started with this project. Good luck.